Everyone, I'm Dr. Mina Blasey, and I want to have a conversation with you about the role of a school site principal. Now, I am a former school site principal in Southern California, small school district. Absolutely loved it, had so much fun, and now I work in a different school district as a director. I really enjoy helping principals be successful. And I have 5 key areas, 5 tips to help you do this. And I'm going to list them off and then I'm going to dive into those areas and help you through that. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments. You can go to Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, send me a direct message or a back channel message and ask me. Would love to help support you as a principal. Now, here are those 5 areas. Number 1, build relationships. Number 2, build professional capital. Number 3, continue to learn. You remember that old adage. Remember, we are lifelong learners. So continue to learn. Number 4, engage the community, engage your educational partners. And number 5, provide support for your teachers and your support staff. So let's go into number 1. Number 1, building relationships, creating spaces to get to know your teachers. And I don't mean always at the school site. It could be at the school site. Maybe a lot of people can't go out. Maybe, they can't go to lunch, but you can provide spaces that are before school. Maybe provide a light breakfast. You could provide lunch for them. You can even ask them to come in earlier, especially if they're being paid to come in earlier. You could provide lunch or a snack. You can also, now this one I might be pushing a little bit, maybe giving them their keys to come in earlier because most school sites have teachers that I just want to get my classroom ready. Now, don't make them. If they need the time and they can get it done quickly, do not pressure them. Don't do that. I was the teacher that if you can give me my keys a couple weeks early, I would be all in and I probably would volunteer to do extra stuff. I wanted my keys. I had a science lab. I needed to get science ready for students, especially getting those labs together. So I wanted my keys earlier. So that's kind of a way you can build relationships with your teachers. The other thing you can do is to create a space to get to know your support staff. Sometimes you have new support staff. There may not be as much or professional development for your support staff. You could offer paid opportunities for your support staff to come in. You could offer them opportunities to learn with you, maybe even offering them professional development to go to a conference with teachers. Especially if they're in special education or there is a paraprofessional, sometimes they're called yard duty or security. If there is a professional development or conference that could benefit them too, especially around social emotional learning or social emotional well-being, maybe it's about student behaviors, I would give them an opportunity to go. 1, they know what's going on in the teacher's mind. And 2, they can directly support in the classroom or on the playground. Or if it's a high school, they can actually support during lunchtime or during passing period. First of all, teachers shouldn't be the only one that get to have the professional learning, but it also will build relationships. Your support staff will get to know you, they'll get to know some teachers, and maybe one day they'll go into education. That has happened a lot where some of our support staff goes into education because they get access to more knowledge and they start to realize that they love what they do. I have lots of friends that were support staff, maybe a paraprofessional in the classroom or an instructional assistant in reading, and they loved it so much they wanted to get the background knowledge, that pedagogy around the classroom information. The other thing that you want to do to build relationships is to connect with families. And I don't just mean parents. Sometimes students are being raised by grandparents, maybe an older sibling, maybe an aunt or an uncle, maybe a close friend because maybe a parent is overseas because they're in the military and they were a single parent. So they may be raised by a community friend or a childhood friend. So something to think about. How are you going to engage with the family to build those relationships and get to know them? And the other thing that you could do to build relationships is to build partnerships in the community. Do you have a local community college? Do you have a local university in your area? Get to know and become partners with that university. They want to get to know you, and they want to come to your school site to talk about how to get into college. Maybe there's an avenue to help students that have that are economically disadvantaged. Maybe you even have in the state of California, we may have some undocumented students or families that need to get support with financial aid. They'll come in and talk to your students and have the background where you don't have to go and just learn it. You can have someone else come in to create that relationship. The other thing you might want to do is to build relationships with businesses in the area, your local grocery store, your local plaza stores. Maybe you have a mall. Get to know them. They can come in and chat, especially with your high school students. Maybe they want a summer position. Maybe they can come in and talk to students about what they do, how they provide services in the community. So something to think about, and especially, get to know your fire department, your police department, your chamber of commerce. These people want to get to know the schools. They're paying taxes in the community. They want to get to know you, and you definitely want to get to know them because they can provide support and services. I think that's, personally, I love getting to know the community, especially if you're a principal that lives in the community. And even if you don't, you still should get to know community partners. We also call them educational partners. You want to be, relationships with students. Elementary, middle, and high school looks different. If you're an elementary teacher or an elementary principal, a middle school principal or teacher support staff, or high school teacher support staff principal, that will look different. So if you're an elementary teacher, be visible, walk around the classrooms, let teachers know that you're just going to pop into classrooms. Why? Some teachers have anxiety over you going into their classroom. I never did. So I didn't really understand that until I became an assistant principal and a principal. Let them know that you're going to pop by and that you really want to see the engagement of the students. And that's really why we're there, to help support teachers so they can support their students. When you support the teachers to do that, their students will do well. So let them know you want to see how the students are doing, and you want to be able to support them. You won't be able to do that unless you're going around and seeing what's happening in the classroom. So, and be visible. And I don't mean that first week. I mean all year long, all times of the day, but be visible at lunchtime. Assistant principals, be visible. Students need to see that you're there. They want to know that you support them. They want to know when they come to see you that it's not just about discipline. It is amazing that if you ever have an issue that's disciplinary and students already know you, they won't be worked up. They will better themselves and have a conversation with you, and they are probably going to be more forthcoming. But if you only visit students when students are in trouble, the relationship isn't there. You also want to make sure that you're walking the campus at lunchtime, for elementary, at recess, at breaks. Be visible in the hallways if you're an indoor campus. A lot of campuses in California are outdoor, so be available. And yes, even in the warm weather. So if you are in Southern California, say in the Coachella Valley, it's warm. Get a hat. Get a cool towel, because if students are out, we should be out. Should really be visible with the community. And again, go into classrooms. Number 2, build professional capital. What is professional capital? Now, if you wanted to read the book by Fullen and Hargreaves, I recommend it. But professional capital can mean a lot of things. 1, it's building human capital. It's building, and 2, it's social capital, navigational capital. It also could be culture, understanding and building cultural capital, because the way you grew up may be different than the way I grew up. And if you have exchange students, they really may have a different perspective if you're in the United States. So really think about how you're going to build that professional capital. Navigational capital means, how are students going to navigate the school system? How is a new teacher going to navigate the school system? How is the parent going to help their child navigate the school system? And how do our support staff navigate the school system, all the way through whether they're going to go into college or enter a career? And it's even better if you can do this before they enter elementary school. Teaching parents how to navigate the school, even teaching parents, here's the key, what discipline means. Explaining to parents what it means to be suspended, why they would be suspended, teaching them what it, where the education code, in California, we call it California Education Code. Read it to them, because if they know, they can teach their children, but you can teach children too. Like, this is what happens if you do this, this, and this. What can I do to support you so that your behaviors are conducive, or where you, well, conducive enough to where you can navigate school, so you're not looking to get in trouble, and making sure that they can navigate the school in a positive way and aren't always seeking negative things. So that's one way to think of it. The other thing with the human capital means, are we providing professional learning? And that's good. That's number three, but I kind of want to touch on that for a moment. Do we provide professional learning, just like I said, with parents and students, but for our teachers and our support staff? What are we doing so that what I tell teachers, support staff know, and if it's something that the community should know, am I building that with our community? Am I having a conversation about the human capital? Am I providing a space where people feel safe, they feel heard, and I'm not being judgmental? Because the day you feel like you know it all is the day that, one, as a principal, you stop learning, and two, people will stop listening to you. You've got to give people a voice in what they are doing. The other thing with social capital is connecting people, connecting families with teachers, teachers with support staff, other parents with other families, so that the community can count on each other. That's the social capital piece. And then there's also linguistic capital, understanding that not everybody speaks English. So what can you do to help support that? In this day and age, we have apps that I can speak into the app. If I don't have somebody that can translate or interpret, I actually can use the app to interpret for me. If you have somebody part of the deaf and hard of hearing community, you may want someone to be available so that you can talk to that parent. I, for example, actually just gave my phone number to that community because I needed them to be able to communicate with me quickly and not have to wait for it. Texting sometimes worked even when I was in their presence. It's not necessarily the best way, but at least I made an attempt to communicate. And the families really appreciated that. And then cultural capital. My culture is different than your culture, and your culture is different than the communities, especially if you grew up in the middle class. A lot of teachers did, not all, let me be clear, but if you did, we may have this mental mindset, mental model of what we think how kids should behave. Why aren't they doing it this way? And then you get upset over it. You get triggered, for example. We have to take a step back and say, no, let me try to understand before I get upset over something. And then try to put yourself in the other student's shoes. I'm going to give you a really good example. There are a lot of people in the African-American community, if they get their hair done, it's like, we're not going swimming today. So if you have a high school where you have swimming as a course, you may want to have conversations with parents around swimming is part of your child's semester courses this month. What can we do to support the community? How can we help you protect your hair? Maybe you have that conversation with CAPS, and maybe this month you may not want to go and spend a lot of money on your hair, and you may even want to ask the questions before just assuming. Tell me what I need to do to help support you, because I know my culture is different. You can ask questions, bring people in. What do we need to do to support you with swimming? Parents will tell you. They will, because there have been times where, as a teacher, I've seen where students just come crying to me. I wasn't the swim coach. And I don't want to do this. I just got my hair done. Did you explain that to your teacher? Yes, they don't understand. We need to seek to understand the perspectives of others. So that's huge when it comes to building professional capital. I can talk a little bit more about professional capital from the human capital of teachers, meaning now number 3, which is part of that, is continue to learn. As a principal, it is you are obligated to continue to learn, just like teachers. And what I mean by that is the latest research in education. What is happening? Do you need to implement it right away? No, you should know what's happening. For example, do you have any idea what Web 3.0 is, and the previous Web 1.0 and Web 2.0? Do you have any idea what blockchain is, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, metaverse? Do you understand what augmented and virtual reality, expanded reality, do you understand what any of that means? And if not, you can go and find someone that's an expert. You probably have 1 or 2 teachers that already are experts in this area. So That's part of your professional development, is also to figure out who knows what and how, when you guys come together as a team, how you can provide professional development if teachers are willing to share. If not, you can go and find a different expert to help you with that. How amazing would it be if you integrated what teachers already know? The other thing you want to be very clear on is that if you are offering a new initiative, now I know there are many districts around the world that are, it's this way and no other way. You may want to have a meaningful conversation. Please read, if you, or listen to the Professional Capital book. There are other books that I can offer too, Visible Learning with Fisher, Fry. There's also Almorode with Clarity for Learning. It is not my responsibility to tell a teacher how to teach. Now, that's a personal belief. There's also research behind it. When teachers have their classroom that's set up to allow them to be the expert, to allow them to be creative, to allow them to reach the students where they know how to, should they have other tools and strategies to do that? Can you provide tips and tricks that they can choose from, like a whole bucket of ideas? Absolutely. You can say, hey, what about trying this? But when we make teachers teach a certain way, we are creating teachers that are happy. It's just like telling your own child, I need you to do this way. And if you don't, you're in trouble. Or if you don't, then it won't be right. What if they have a more creative way of doing it? What if they have a better way of solving that problem? Okay, mathematics, science. Why don't we give teachers the opportunity to get really creative in their classroom and allowing students to master the standards that way? Now, the science of learning and what that looks like, that's a whole nother video, and we'll talk about that, because we do need to focus on that and what that looks like. But giving teachers tools to help them become great so that students can talk to each other and grapple with their learning, yes. But it is not for me to tell a teacher how to teach, because if you had told me how to teach, I'd be frustrated and it wouldn't be fun. If it's fun for the teacher, it's probably more than likely going to be fun for the student. And then you will have happy parents, happy students, a community that has a high social capital and professional capital. I mean, you as a principal will be very happy as well. So there's something else with the continued learning. Be honest with things you don't know. You will not know everything, and that's okay. I didn't know everything. I'm not going to pretend to. If somebody else knows, please provide that and talk to me. And my personality with learning is different than someone else's. You give me some learning, you give me a book, I'm all over it, I'm reading it, great. Not everybody wants to read that book cover to cover, even though I had to learn that. Like, I could buy everyone a book, let's read it this weekend. No. But if you are going to provide a book, give some time for them to read it for the school year. Maybe take 30 minutes or 15 minutes during a professional learning or staff meeting and let them actually read it, and then put them in groups and say, you read this chapter, this chapter, this chapter, and then give them time to present it at another meeting, but give them time at school. I believe that teachers should be family and friends after school. Now, if they want to, because I did too, I wanted to do my own thing. It is okay to let teachers do what they want. If they want to do something together after school and they want to do it for school, that's their choice. But you can provide spaces for them to work together and provide professional learning as well. Ask others to learn with you. Provide professional development that the staff wants, not necessarily what you want. I promise you, I could do a staff development on molecular structures and the periodic table, but that doesn't necessarily help them unless it's like 5th grade science. So I have to be very cognizant of how does this help everyone? And then when do I need to just work with this grade level? When do I need to work with just this grade level or this content area? Be available to be flexible with that. And I wasn't perfect. I don't even want to pretend like I was at all. I'll never forget, one teacher said to me, Nina, you know how enthusiastic you are? I'm just as enthusiastic. Not every teacher is enthusiastic. I have to remember that. Some people need time to process. Some people need time to go, let me see how this works for another teacher before I jump into it. Because if it works for them, it might work for me. So give people time to process what you've offered them. Practice it. Don't just say it's a one and done and never talk about it again. Just like when students learn, you have to go back to it. You have to, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's Let's think about it. Let's process it. Let's practice it. But don't make it just go away and say, oh, I taught you and move on. Because if you're doing that, you're modeling what might happen in a classroom. I taught you. It's time to go. You should already know that. Get away from that. Provide professional learning for the community. So if you have an elementary, middle, or high school, and there's a new concept, and what I mean by new concept, for a fifth grade parent, for a parent who has fifth graders, a parent that has middle schoolers, and a parent that has high schoolers, that textbook, whatever that textbook looks like, might be a lot. They may not know how to navigate school. And if it's chemistry or calculus, they're like, I can help my kid, but you can't help your parents learn how to help their kids at home without knowing calculus. It might be a quick tip. Read the textbook with them. Listen to them. Listen to your kids. Ask them to explain the concept to you. You can also give them places and spaces to find learning and tutoring or before and after school. Give parents the skills to understand what's happening in the classroom. I'm not saying that teachers should always have to do that because that's a lot, but you can find a place or a space to put some tools together where parents can go and grab it. Like, oh, go to this website. Did you know that the Colorado Physics, PHET, for example, is a great way for them to actually learn and play with math and science? So just some quick tips, and maybe it's a website that you build on Google Psych, for example. Let's see. Oh yeah. And number 4, engage the community, educational partners. Why? I was a principal for about 7 years, an assistant principal for just under 2 years. Get to know the community. Why? Because if they know you, they will trust you. If you're honest with them, they will probably bend over backwards for you. I'm going to give you an example. You know that thing that just happened, the pandemic? The pandemic shook the world apart. It just did. I had a community, even with teachers and support staff and the community, the parents, that we were able to come together and create a space at the very beginning where teachers were like, let's do Zoom. We don't want packets. Like, they learned Zoom quickly. The parents were available. I was able to do things on Zoom with parents. Was it perfect? No. But the community was so close that they created pockets of cohorts of students where they kept themselves safe. They wore their masks, and maybe one family took in students because daycare is closed. Like, because they had, one family was like, I have to go to work. I don't even know what to tell you. And I have a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. Those are the communities you want. When I said professional capital and that social capital, get to know your community. Let them get to know each other. Provide a cultural event. Provide ways for parents to meet other parents in the classrooms. And I don't mean just put it on the teachers. Create this system with each other. Have, for us, it was a STEM school. Provide a science, technology, engineering, and math night, and where kids actually showcase it or teachers showcase it, community members. We actually had some of our staff that presented as well, and they weren't teachers. We even had parents that helped us with that. So what can you do to engage families? I don't mean just get involved. They come to assemblies, they go to parent teacher conferences, they go to football games, basketball games. That's it. That's going to an event. When you engage them, you listen to their voices, you are trying to understand where they're coming from, and then you're taking action on it, not just all about you. And when they come in huffing and puffing, you can actually say, you hear yourself, you're yelling at me. You know I wouldn't yell at you. And I hear that you're angry with me. But what can we do to solve this so that we can, and then you will start to get them to calm down. And actually, you can even front load them and say, I know some of you are going to be angry with me when your child might get suspended or even possibly be put up for expulsion. But let's go through what that means before it happens. So then when it could possibly happen, they trust that you're going to do what's right by their child. Something to think about, especially when it comes to your community where you're the principal. And number 5, provide support for teachers and support staff. It is truly your initiative. You need to be in a leadership role to develop the team. If you are not developing the team, people won't follow you. You have to be confident enough to know that you're not know-it-all, but provide a team environment and allow teachers to work alone. Yes, that's always good, but it is, do things in 2s and 3s, for example. If you have a new initiative, Maybe it's the things you want to focus on that year. And then maybe you want to focus on the same thing, but you want to enhance it next year. If you throw something new every year, and when you're supporting staff, they will be overwhelmed. Stop that. You don't need to do that. You need to listen to what they want to happen for their classrooms, and how do support staff need support to help their teachers. That's actually huge. Allow for Psych creativity. Teachers can come up with some great things. Parents can come up with some great things, but teachers and staff, they will come up with a theme for the school year and go with it. Some schools will do, a Star Wars theme. Maybe they'll do a Disney theme. It could be bigger than that. It could be a NASA theme, whatever it is. It could be a college university theme. Maybe it's the different conferences. Maybe students on a certain day of the week, they're going to wear their favorite university shirt. What can you do to bring to support the teachers so that it's all about the team? Creating plans for teachers, or teachers creating the plans for the school site. You create it you can do it with just the leadership team. Not everybody wants to be a part of that, but they will follow what their teachers create. If I'm the one creating it, they don't necessarily follow it. But if you create it as a team with the teachers and the support staff, because you want their input too, because they're there, they will do almost anything for you. Teachers are the experts. I'm going to say this, and I know I've said it before. Whether it's because they have been practicing for years or have a niche, or a specialty like bio or chem or calculus or social science, political science, engineering, they're the expert. It is not your job to tell them how to teach. I said that earlier, but I want to reiterate it. It is not your job. It is your job to support them, to make sure students are safe, to make sure teachers are safe, and then give them tips and tricks and tools, and provide conferences and professional development, and come back and talk about it. And what did you like about it that you could use right away? And maybe they won't like everything, but they might later on think of it. But if you think everything's going to happen overnight, no, nothing happens overnight. It happens over time. Literally, speed equals distance over time. And distance, whether it's from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, time is constant. But what you do during that time is the speed that you want to go. And here's the thing, if it's not working, I'm going to add another formula in there, because I love formulas in science. Acceleration. Think about that. The change in velocity over time, meaning if slow down quickly, whoa, this isn't working, change the direction. Be honest, this is not working. It's not, we need to change this. It's okay to, just go, what do we need to do differently? And if it's not working with a family or a parent, you know what, you're right, I am so sorry. Be honest with teachers and staff when things aren't working. They will appreciate it. And especially if it's an initiative that you try and you figure out in the first 2 months, you're like, this is just frustrating us. Do that for your teachers. I want to thank you for listening to me. Come back, remember those 5 areas, and I'm just going to quickly repeat them. Build relationships, build professional capital, continue to learn, engage in the community, your educational partners, and above all, provide support for your teachers and your staff. I hope that this helped you a lot. I appreciate you, and come back. Make sure you follow me, subscribe, and add some information in the comments. Ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to help you.